Hi folks, Gamerbug here again, and we are back with the Black Death. So, update 0.24 here, and I think we're 2 hotfixes down the road, and with some time put into the playing the update now, I thought maybe we should see what's good and bad. So, there is a fair bit of good, let's start with that, but there is of course a lot of bad as well. To begin with, there are some things that the players have asked for some time now, and it's nice to see them added to the game. What are these things? Well, let's have a look. Let's start with the hotbar. Simply put, it's a great addition. You drag and drop like most games onto the hotbar and use with the press of a key. Simple, and surprising it took so long, especially as there was a basic hotkey option back in 0.11. Can't really slate this at all though, 100% praise. Needs maybe a few more hotbar slots adding, like 7 through 0, but for now, the 6 we have is good. We also have armor slots to show what we're wearing on the inventory screen, which has been lauded by a few people on the forum, but we did actually have this back in, at least 0.12. The only difference is the item is no longer shown in your inventory. Same with hotbar items, which is good for less clutter but can have you confused with your weight limit. However, that's no big deal and overall it is good. On to item stacking, something that is a staple in most resource gathering types of games and has taken way too long to get here, but here it is, and for the most part it works. You can now stack items that make sense and not stack those that don't. So swords or armour or tools are not stackable, but say thread or ingots or ore, water etc. can all be placed in stacks. These stacks can be split into smaller chunks as required, which is also good, and they don't all stack back if you slap them in storage, which I sort of like but possibly is not intended. The downside currently is that the split stack icon seems to be off one side of the screen if you use a resolution over say 1920 by 1080, though you can work with it if you click the left more of the item, it does tend to show. On this note, you can also now fill your inventory with the stacks that overburden you, which helps for inventory management. Previously you could only pretty much take one item beyond anything that would make you encumbered. And it was really annoying. That wouldn't work well with the stacks as they are now, especially more so as you can't split stacks in storage chests, so you have to put them on your character to split them. If you couldn't carry a heavy stack, you'd never be able to split your items again. So it makes sense. Along with stacks came a mechanic changing item quality or rarity or something like that. Previously I think it was poor, common, uncommon and rare. Now we get common, uncommon, rare, epic, mythic and legendary. I think that's right. Now I cannot say what the difference in the new qualities is, as I haven't really noticed anything. And I'm also not sure what the catalyst for them is. They seem tied to the recipe you learn, and that seems very random. For example, the same suit of armour has recipes that are differing in qualities. So the helmet might be epic, but the body piece might be legendary. Doesn't really make sense. You can supposedly craft some items in differing styles as well, such as iron swords and claymores that can be, I think, rusty, standard or, I don't know, beautiful. I can't remember the term they used. But again, that how in the equation I don't know. The best I could get from patch notes are, it's random. The only clarity here is that you only gather one quality of resource, which I do like and is much simpler than trying to gather poor silver, common silver, rare silver, etc. So do I like this new system? Honestly, as I have no control over it, I don't care. But there's the point. I don't decide the quality of the item, it seems tied to the recipe. The game does. So if that's the case, why have quality at all? Just have normal quality and let the differing weapons or armour decide the damage or resistance to damage. I mean, this actually sort of works. If you have stick tools in the game and you have iron tools in the game, one allows you to strike a resource and receive one resource in return. Whereas with an iron weapon, if you strike, iron tool, sorry, if you strike, you will receive multiples, usually 3 of the resource. But that's the material deciding the rarity. Deciding what you get, not the rarity. Rarity just seems an overcomplication then. Actual crafting changes in this update are minimal. You can craft multiple stacks of items at once, which is good. But then you have to wait for them all to be ready to even take one, which is bad. For example, if something has a timer of 12 and you make 3 of them, that's 36 seconds. You don't have one appear able to take after 12 seconds, which is very different to most games. I mean, some things take minutes to craft a stack, and if you need just 1 or 2 to get the next item going, you're going to now have to wait. There's no way to cancel it either. Besides that, not much really else to write about on crafting. Nothing to get too excited about. Same old, same old. But I guess more pluses than issues here. Anyway, that done, let's move on to resources. And as of the current hotfix, resource gathering both sucks and is child's play, and that's not good in my opinion. Now let me start by saying this might and probably will change, but the current system is just broken. So the resources used to be in set places and respawned over time after being harvested, for want of a better word. So iron typically was in mines, wood in woods, sticks and stones on the beach. Now this wasn't ideal, but it did make some sense. You could also get multiple resources from one node, such as if you picked a cotton bush, you might get cotton seeds, the cotton itself, and sticks. Or you might get stone ore and iron ore from an iron node. Pluses and minuses here. With things like the cotton seeds and that, if you had the capacity to carry it, they were good. Good for planting, good for farming. And sticks actually were sort of rare in 0.19 onwards. But stone ore could be a plus or a minus depending, so it's hard to say whether that's a good or a bad. But now we've moved to procedurally generated resources that spawn in anywhere, so people can't hog certain areas of the map or go to them expecting to find certain resources. Instead, supposedly you need to roam the map to find what you need. However, the theory is better than the implementation. Why? Well, you can pretty much find any sort of resource anywhere on the map. That includes in a radius around your house, for example. This means I can run in a big circle around my house, find a whole lot of wood, iron, silver, cotton, whatever, then head back, dump it all in the chest, head back out again, rinse and repeat. Now, sure, sometimes you might need to head away from the area a bit to get new stuff to spawn in, but not far. I mean, if you were to put it into game terms, we're talking sort of around your house maybe 300 meters. That's not that far. And it's not a big deal to run away and come back. I've actually known these things to spawn in by just standing in one spot and then running back, I guess you might say something like 150 feet to where the thing was, and the resources have changed. Now there are some pluses to this. Mainly, you can find resources closer to your house, and if you have a really remote house, you don't find upgrading it a slog. There were some houses that certainly benefited from their location in 0.12 all the way up to 0.23. Heck, you could actually add 0.11 into that. The thing is, it means you no longer have to go more than a few hundred feet from your house to get anything you need, except gold. That may or may not be rare or just not spawning currently. But as it's not really a vital ingredient, it doesn't really matter. And thus, you don't have to explore the map at all. You can simply just not bother. Like I say, this might be changed, and they may add the procedural spawning to certain areas, such as ore to mines, but until this happens, the game got a whole lot easier and duller. On the plus side, different types of tools for gathering resources, as stated earlier, now have a purpose. Not only improving the durability, which is kind of silly, the durability levels for the basic stuff at the moment, it's like 5 hits and it's broken, but you get more resources per strike as well with the higher tiered or material stuff such as iron and I'm assuming silver. I haven't actually made silver stuff myself yet. So let's move on to the new enemies. The map is now littered with enemies that spawn almost anywhere. Mostly monks, both with melee and ranged ones with crossbows. I mean, I say melee, but even those are ranged, so to speak. There are a few bandits here and there as well, but overall, it's the monks that you'll see, and see them you will. A lot. So the first monk is one that wields a mace, but who can also throw very accurate and infinite stones at you. Now, if you're unarmoured, you're going to be having a hard time till you figure them out, and assuming they don't hit you with cheap blows, which they will, not great. They're bad enough, I mean, especially en masse, as you try to fight one and are hit with unblockable rocks from others, and you're finding groups that you end up just wanting to avoid them, which is pretty easy, except when they surround your house, which they often do. You'll often find yourself logging in and hearing a familiar thud outside your house. There's probably one or two monks stood outside waiting. But then, those are bad enough, as I say. Add in the super cheap crossbow monks, and yep, I did say monks with crossbows. Who knew? And they will royally piss you off. They have unlimited ammo. They have a small cooldown. They can run and reload, and can run as fast as you with your weapon drawn, or faster than you with your weapon drawn actually, whilst they still got theirs in their hands. They can trade blows with you at point blank range. They can turn and shoot. They are literally 360 no-scopers. And even at distance, they're ridiculously accurate. Even when you're on the move, you'll find that you cannot dodge there. They'll hit your toe. Again, more than one and you're in a world of hurt. But even one is so cheap, you'll often come out, well, dead. And again, you simply just find yourself avoiding them. So there are two new enemy types you're just best off simply avoiding, unless you're well armed and armoured, and here we have an issue. The game is encouraging you to not fight, or just go for it and hope to come out on top. But all the enemies have some sort of silly rock throw attack if they aren't ranged, as far as I know, so unless you're lucky to find them alone, fighting is a bad option. Of course, you could hotbar 20 cotton swabs, and you will be hotbarring 20 cotton swabs, but as these are heals over time now, and they're a bit pathetic if I'm honest, you're still playing a dangerous game unless it's one-on-one. The other enemies are very similar in how they fight, with differences being beggars aren't armed, making them a slightly better target if you can get hold of a weapon, otherwise they're actually quite difficult. Bandits, some of them have got shields, some have got bows, but they act very similar to the monks. And honestly, I haven't seen the knight, as I haven't needed to go anywhere far enough to come across one. Don't even know they're in the game anymore. When I play, pretty much it's basically just monks everywhere, which leads me to the question as well. Why monks? Bandits made sense, but for some reason we have evil monks everywhere in huge numbers. Because, I don't know, evil? Along with these, we do have the occasional wolf, but those are so broken, jittery and pointless, along with a lot of the animals currently, there's just no point. You may as well just run past them. Unless you need a pelt, which you might get lucky if they drop one, but probably not. I haven't seen the animals this bad since 0.11. Oh, and though I've only seen 3 so far in the game, there are also really big rats in it now. Because again, I don't know, evil. What else? Combat's been improved, and it's a faster combat system than it was before. It used to be glitchy and slow, but now it's glitchy and fast. You get some cooldown icons on screen that are quite annoying, and you have to fathom out what they actually represent. And if you look, they do actually tell you next to the hotbars what button to use, but a few people straight away asked on the forums, what's TMB? Because it used to be middle mouse button for a heavy attack or something, but it's actually thumb mouse button. Now, some of the weapons do have different attacks, but finding out exactly what they are ain't easy. And even finding out what they do, even when you swing, is weird. I did have a big double-handed sword, took a swing with some weird special attack. Didn't even connect. I mean, literally point blank range. Didn't connect. Very strange. Also, things like the thumb mouse button and stuff like that. If you want to reconfigure them to something else, yeah, you still have to do that in the launcher before you start the game. You still cannot configure keys in-game. As before, the combat, well, it's functional. It's not great. And attacks, as before, that should connect don't, and those that shouldn't do. Adding to that, the penalty for running with a weapon out that enemies don't have, and you finish with a system that is new, but not really any better or worse overall. It's also worth noting that weapons degrade way too fast, making combat often based on how many weapons you have on you. So 3-on swords might be needed if you're having trouble finding an anvil to repair them, which you may well do. But that means more carry weight. They really need to work on the durability of things. Iron swords do not break easily. Certainly not in, I would say, 20 or so swings and connects with a monk who is not armoured. Also, monks block, by the way, by putting their hands in front of their face, which if a sword was coming at me, I would think is not really a viable defence. I'm digressing. There have been a few new items added, which is mainly the royal armour that looks, in my opinion, a bit silly and full-on fancy RPG kind of thing. Some old things have made a return. There's the stone maces back in the game, and raspberry and strawberry bushes are back in, but there's not really that much to make any big fuss about. There have been a graphic overhaul and changes to the movement system, but except when the game was first released at 0.24, like I said, there's been hotfixes. The movement was really screwed up, which has been fixed. But overall, I haven't noticed that much on the visuals. The movement looks a bit iffy. It was never great before, but don't think it really needed what it has now. Some places have been revamped again. There's the odd new landmark here, extra hill there, new empty town here, new empty fort there. They're all probably placeholders for stuff that's coming, but at the minute it's just more empty stuff. There's a weird glitch where your helmet stays visible when removed with hair bleeding through it, which requires a relog to fix, and until you do that it looks like the helmet's sort of been melted onto your head, which is a bit grim. What else? Oh, the UI's had another change. Yep, another one. Every update seems to come with one now. So I'm assuming the UI designer is either very cheap to get to do the work, maybe someone owes them some money, or they've potentially maybe kidnapped someone influential to the developers and are holding them to ransom. Sort of, if I don't get to make a new user interface every update, then I'll send pieces of your loved one in the mail. I mean, I'm kidding, obviously, but it's true about the UI updates. There is pretty much one every update now. Of course, no UI update comes bug-free, such as the issue with the aspect ratio, as I said before, being off the edge of the screen. It's a bit smaller than before, the user interface. The food and hunger meters look like tabs, which they're not. And there's still no explanation of the numbers in the middle of the health bar, which is the wellness meter. So for anyone who's a newcomer, they don't know what that means. What it actually means is, if your food and water is at 100%, that number will be 4, and the little arrows next to it mean that you will gain health back quicker. But it doesn't actually tell you that anymore. So, do I like this update? Not really. It's okay, but it doesn't make me think the game is going anywhere amazing. It's starting to show, I think, in my opinion, how they want to make it more mainstream. And I feel this is the direction they will have to go in, because this is the direction they've started in. Not that they haven't U-turned before. The game had a very unique feel. It was niche. but it's just gone in a completely different direction. Sort of the lots of fighting with NPC mobs, trying to make people gain experience with combat. It's making everything a bit simpler, and it's more of a single player experience than ever. The option of being a master of all skills, the resources are everywhere to trip over, and there's really not much focus on the multiplayer aspect. The latest update didn't really draw in much regards players, not like the previous ones did, and from 0.20 onwards the patches seem to have had less of an impact on revitalising numbers. I still play a bit, but the interest is dwindling and I'm not sure what they can do to get the players back in. There are talks of closing down servers to consolidate them, but that might also drive off people when the inevitable character wipe happens again, which it probably will. So will that help? Changing the server numbers? Maybe. Many think it will. Of course, only if done how they say, which is the other problem the developers have. You see, the developers don't seem to know their directions, it changes so often. But the players are also all convinced that they know the right way to fix it. I'm raising my hand to say guilty, which of course we don't. We're just guessing and saying what we want, which probably goes against what 10 others want. So, to finish off, will I be back? Yeah, sure, probably. But other games have me captivated at the moment. One was even early access for 4 years, so with only 2 years under its belt, the Black Death has time to prove what it can do. Of course, you can also look at games such as DayZ, and that game is nowhere near finished after 4 years, and to be fair, this game might not even make year 4. Time will tell. So on that note, as always, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, Gamerbug out.